day filled with fireworks, a week that'll be very decisive for not only XRP, but for the immediate short term projections for cryptocurrency. But also, as the week gets started, we'll have to take a look at gold, silver, see how precious metals, see how DXY reacts, as gold is attempting a breakout that could pull some liquidity again from risk off or risk on assets like crypto and slide them over into more sound money. I've often said a lot of the outside traders or the ones who aren't a typical trader, they're going to look at markets, and if they see upward volatility and they find it and they understand sound money, they're going to end up putting their money in there. But if we can get a little bit of a optic built in crypto that we're starting to push bullish, a lot of retail find it a much easier investment in regards to making significant or substantial gains, so they ignore the other sector entirely, which is what we're looking for cryptocurrency. Now, the one thing that is hindering us right now, if you watched the 4.5 minute video yesterday that I put out after the live, it was a couple hours after. It talked about the ABC correction, which we did talk about in the live last night, or yesterday morning, I should say. But I specifically talked about what happens if we cannot invalidate this movement right now. And the good news right now is at least we're over this area. Right now in real time, we've got to, at all costs, we want to stay at least today over $2.09, but we've got to be over $2.10 right now to get over the smaller, well, I mean, $2.0930. But the key level to watch is if we can keep pushing up here, is can we close today's daily over $2.14? Anything shy of that is an issue. At least closing over $2.09 today, likely because of where this will move as the days go on, will probably keep you in the okay range. But we're going to have to close over at minimum, and that doesn't even save us. We really need to close over $2.14 and ultimately start pushing up to avoid a scenario like this. Because one could argue right now, and we can, but after we do the intro this morning, good morning, 9:53 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Sunday, January 11th, 2026. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. And we've got until about 10:40 this morning to talk. I'm going to go to church, so I've got to leave here by no later than 9:45 to start my walk. Something I've grown into a routine with. So we got some time here. So first things first, don't forget to give thanks to your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, Yahweh, Yeshua, our higher power, the one and only God himself, and try to push positivity amongst our peers. There was a study that came out, not even a study, but if you watch Mike Maloney, Gold Silver, they were projecting what the median income is today versus, back in the day when $40,000 or $80,000 or $100,000 was considered higher. Now even the lower middle class, you start to price in inflation and the cost of living and things like that, our wages, and you're talking, it's like 130,000 plus now with the rate of inflation, which means if you have a house payment, if you have a car payment, if you have credit card bills, if you just have everything on payment, it's going to be a big problem. Even if you don't, even if your house is paid off, it's still a problem. The rate of return for us, we've got to find a way to stay ahead of the inflation. And that's a big key for us with not just crypto, when we can find the proper positioning, which is why we need to make sure if this is an ABC or if the projection that we should, but the other way of looking at this, how we had this out, I put the ABC just because of the importance, but if we can do something like this even, and bounce off. You guys remember how we had this in pink. I'll put it back in pink like yesterday. And then I'll put the ABC in yellow because this is how I had it yesterday. So I want to keep some familiarity with this chart just in case, because this is what we're rooting for right now. I know it's crazy that we've come to this point, but what we're rooting for is something at minimum is we're going to have some kind of bounce like that. And then we can decide if we're going to bounce off or we're going to break down. So this would be like the indecisive candle. Like, what are we going to do here, right? But that's what we really need to happen here. I mean, like, really need to happen. Otherwise, we're starting, as you can see, and we'll go like this. We'll put it in. Actually, you know what? We'll put this one, I think, in orange. I think orange makes a lot of sense here. We'll be able to see it nicely. Because then we can see it cutting through the pattern. Although I wonder if that would be better. I do like those kind of colors. For the chart, of course. Although I do like that hot pink color. I always have. So this is definitely, it's definitely something to study here. If you're a fan of the wick-off accumulator, or the hold on one sec. I just gotta make sure I grab the right one here. One more. If you're a fan of the Elliot wave, whoops, and you like to discuss like the Elliot wave theory, and no, it's not 100% fact, but it's the best we have when it comes to wavelength movements and movements within a chart. It's the best tool we have. And when you put the sequence of numbers, this is what we're trying to avoid. Now, I can tell you right now, we have an opportunity not to make this happen. And it's the one I showed above. And if we can somehow still use this and bounce up, because I still believe we can come up there and tap that higher liquidity. I still believe with Bitcoin too that there is that liquidity around 94, and then if you can get past that all the way up to 100K, so there is a big opportunity for this market to move higher. Even though everybody's expecting this B wave down, if you're looking at the ABC correction, I can argue that we could still finish off a fourth wave in the other movement as long as we don't give back. You just can't give back the $1.99.7 at all costs. The $1.99.7 is the key. Obviously, holding this would be a great cap in the hat, or a great bullish look for just the outsiders. So we might be able to get some volatility into this market. We might be able to find some volatility. So hopefully this isn't going over everybody's head, because some people are leaving, which means that I might be getting a little too involved, but that's okay. But what I realize is when we do this, it's kind of like we'll build from the core out with the members who watch, and then if people are finding interest because they think that this hits the home or not, they'll stay or they'll go. But I really think that these are moments that we all should be paying attention to together. I still, in 4.5 years doing this, I've not found the right mixture of keeping the ones who are looking for FUD and keeping the ones who want reality in here. I can keep the ones who want reality, but the ones who are looking for the higher threshold, the misalignment, I can't seem to keep those people in here. And those are the ones I crave to keep in here more. Because I know the ones in here who know the truth, they'll do okay on their own either way. But it's the ones who are fighting guidance that often leave. And that's what I pray to try to do better in 2026. That's one of the things. Like, I pray that I'll be able to reach those people, because if we can't reach those people, they're just going to get hammered with the rest of what's happening with what's going on in our native countries. And that, to me, that's not a blessing. To me, that's almost a detriment. Half Wizzy says, I'm done watching the charts and checking the prices every day. I'm not going to keep watching these YouTube videos about crypto. I'm just going to forget about this market until it explodes. Too much BS. That's a horrible way to look at it. I agree you should stop watching the majority of YouTubers. I'm not going to disagree with you. I've done it myself, and that's why I started this channel March 24th of 2021, and why I haven't missed a single day, and why I do the reality, because I was once trading crypto and watching these same people, and it was confusing the hell out of me, because they were all telling me what wasn't true in the charts. If you watch the charts for what they are, my friend, Doesn't mean you have to trade every single day. I don't. But what you watch the chart for is it predicts what's coming in the news. It predicts the next event that's going to happen. It predicts whether or not you should be accelerating your buying into a particular asset class, utility, real world asset, an AI, whatever the case may be, whatever your forte is, or whatever you like, the charts will emphasize your strategy. The people you speak of can't even look at a chart, so that I wouldn't go apples to apples in that comparison. What I would do is what you're becoming psychologically, the psychological warfare is now making you mind dead, mind numb. That's why nobody watches me. They lump me in. Well, not nobody. There's a lot of people that watch me, but why I can't get to the next level because I'm lumped in with the group that you just categorized, unfortunately. But I can't disagree with you. It's fatigue. It's retail fatigue because you're being told a bunch of nonsense. And then even when you achieve a price appreciation, you don't even enjoy it. Like, nobody even enjoys it. Like, I so much enjoy XRP right now being at $2.10. Nobody can even really understand unless you're part of the flow that we're in. And the reason that is at least we're realistic here that we knew you were buying it sub 50 cents when we were in the all-time consolidation. And we knew that would give us the ability not to just overtly sell all the time, but that would give us the ability to ride out this market. And I said it before and I'll say it again. To buy XRP over $1 was a mistake then. To buy it over $2 is a mistake now because you've got so much. There's so much that goes into it that now you're going to be sitting there and you're going to be sweating your balls off. You're going to be sweating your last hairs. You're going to be shedding your last piece of clothing, praying to God that you bought it when it was in a liquidity zone where it's still going to be going in your favor. What ended up happening is everybody's seen what happened to everybody. Does everybody remember what happened? Everybody bought that was not a fan of XRP in 2021 when we were at what price? These are not the fans of XRP. These are the ones that we call, unfortunately, the Johnny-come-latelys, because what they ended up doing is they followed the standard narrative. Once it became the next big thing, they started following it. Once we got this set up, we knew. We absolutely, unequivocally knew what we were looking for XRP once we got that rejection in 21. It was one of the easiest charts to trade, and we knew to sell. Like, that's the thing. Like, you don't need to have fatigue with XRP, but you do need to follow it every day or you're going to be missing the subtle movements. And everybody gets so fixated. And I'll show you something I posted on Facebook. Just something I put today, just so people could ask the question. So, and nobody really cares about this stuff because they don't want to talk bad. But the Ripple betrayal is Brad Garlinghouse leaving retail behind. The lawsuits are over, but the real war has just begun. While Ripple executives pop champagne over a $40 billion valuation, the XRP army is realizing they might have been the ultimate exit liquidity. And that doesn't mean we're not going to get serious price appreciation. What I meant by that this morning is when everybody was talking about the can't miss in the beginning of the year when that happened, Ripple continues to be able to use us to fund their next project, to fund what is going forward. The stable coin is something that is always going to be a problem because with the bank, remember, we wanted Ripple to use XRP token as a liquidity, right? And by creating the ROUSD token, they technically don't need XRP for that liquidity. They need it for, and this was my argument the entire time, which is why I don't believe we're going to get to the astronomical prices everybody says, but I firmly believe we're all going to be sitting in here soon, one day, and we're going to be talking about that move from $10 to $20. And while a lot of people are complaining and talking about, oh, XRP, I can't believe it's only going between 10 and 20, and they're going to be trying to buy it for a 1x gain because they're going to get caught up. We're going to be sitting there going, oh my God, this is the moment where our $3,500 investment is now trading between $100,000 and $200,000. And a lot of people are going to get mad and we're going to say this was the life change. This was the exact moment where everything changed because now if XRP is trading between 10 and 20, XDC is not trading at 5 or 4.8 cents. XLM's not trading at 23 cents. You know, H-bar is not trading at 12 cents and algo is not trading that cheap. If you found the ones that have utility attachment, but that's the moment we're trying to build to. We can't get there until we get past where we're at now. And where we're at now is not exactly the most stable of footing, that's all. That's why I put out that warning video yesterday about the ABC correction. I'm not convinced that we're not in it until we're not in it. So the good news is, boo-boos? Oh, well, you were talking about it, so you must have known something. But right now we have two optics here. One, we're on a B wave of a C wave of an ABC correction. Or two, this is a fake out. It was the illusion. We are back testing this move after a small pattern breakout. And then we're back testing a wider breakout as well, if you look at it almost like in a channel setting. And we're at that spot. So that's our omniance here. That's our coup de grace. If we don't want to have this downward slope, we want to have this back test perfectly where it's at and start moving. And by the end of the day, you'll know if this is going right if we start pushing over $2.14. If not, we'll start trending down towards the fair value gap from not this past Friday on the CME close, but the Friday before at $1.997. Mark Korf, thanks for not only being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge, but also the $4.99 super chat. That is unbelievable. Thank you so much for that. That unbelievable support. I really appreciate that. Not only being in Tom's Army, but spending his hard-earned money. And man, is that money hard to earn these days. It really is. It really is. I hustle harder than you. Algo is already down 60% and stopped making lower lows. It sure did. It sure did. That's why I'm a very big fan of algo, but we just need to make sure that we don't make another lower low. But right now, we're in that opportunity moment. So did you guys notice the background of my picture today? Instead of it being all dark, I went with something slightly different. Even though I like the darker pictures because it's not supposed to be like devilish. You got to look at it the other way. That's the picture of XRP rising out of the storm. It's rising out of the storm. Does everybody understand that with my normal picture? That we're rising out of the storm. Like we are a final frontier here. Like this is us moving out from an old system that's broken and beaten down and the world's dark around us. But by understanding the new utility, we can break away from that. We really can. Nickel Trickin, welcome in, and thanks for not only being in Tom's Army for your second month with the Dusty's Autos Crypto News, but also gifting a sub this morning. Wow. 8888 Follow the Moon gets gifted his sub for a second month with the Dusty's Autos Crypto News. I hope you appreciate that as much as the generosity that Nickel Trickin gave that. I'm so very appreciative of that. Jordan says some weren't in the market in 2021, so please understand that others want exposure to XRP at the right price. This could be some faults of our thesis with narrative currently. Not everyone has 10,000. Jordan, it's not a fault with our thesis at all, but you have to understand with the thesis, there's only certain spots where you can buy in the plot. Sometimes in a thesis, when you don't buy the storyline, you know, if you've ever watched a movie, sometimes it's just a little too late by the time you come in and watch and you don't know what's happening because you didn't come in at all the buildup. Well, that too can be the case when it comes to a token. The buildup was, we need 10,000 tokens when the price is at the right price. Remember, some went through it in 21 when they had to wait for it to come back down. But, sometimes the storyline is different for everybody. Sure, we can switch the storyline, but then it changes the narrative. Once you change the narrative, it changes the outlook. So not everybody had the 10,000 token outlook. That was my own personal outlook, and that's why I thought you had to buy it when we had to buy it at those areas. Because retail couldn't. We really couldn't even afford it then. Not much of retail can afford $3,500 in one split purchase. That's the same story with silver. A lot of people ignored it when it was cheap. You know, just like today, you see everybody leaving the chat, right? You see everybody besides the core members leaving because I'm not saying XRP is going up to $500. The moment I set a realistic price area, We lost 25% of the audience, but that's my own personal struggle. I deal with that every single day with the price charts by coming on and telling the truth. See, if I come on and say we're going to X, Y, and Z and we're going to go to a gazillion, it's that's why when we're in bull markets, why there's so many people that gravitate here. But when we talk reality, a lot of people don't want to hear it. It's the way it goes in this space, you know? Yeah, we had 91 people watching until we talked about the realism. That's it. We're in a fine spot here in this space, but this is the time and the space where we need reality. We can't. I don't know. I don't know. I go through it every cycle, and I'm seeing it again right now. This is technically towards the phase where more people should be wanting to watch the market unfold, even if it's not good, because this is the opportunity part of the market. When everybody comes back in, it's not usually, most people will be interested when it's not the opportunity. Most people are interested when there's no opportunity, because we've already had that volatile increase. It's a shame, but we see it every cycle. The only blessing I have now, and I know it's Sunday morning, a lot of people can't be in here on Sunday morning, so I have to remember that. But normally we're 100, 120 people, even in the worst of cases. Right now I know a lot of people at church and are leaving, and I've got to remember that. But it's a blessing to see a lot of people are still open to watch this every single day. Do you know how hard it is to watch something? And I get that. When things aren't appreciating, they're depreciating on you. But the best time to watch something is you don't want to get that mental fatigue. And I'm just saying, you don't want the mental fatigue if we're going into this correction right now, or if it's a breakout, because if it's into a deeper correction, this is going to be your biggest opportunity going forward until we hit that next bullish push. So if we do work our way down to 72 or 58, if you just pay attention and you don't have the mental fatigue, you're going to be able to be that person who has liquidity on the sidelines. You know the proper areas, you know the proper movements, and all of a sudden, let's just say Bitcoin comes to 72, even on a swing trade style, and a lot of people don't want to talk that fancy word, but in bear markets, some of the biggest trades you can make are in the swing trade, when everybody's exhausted, when everybody's capitulating. So we go like this, and we start looking, and it's like, okay, well, you could find a simple bounce back on a breakdown to even hit the retest of a breakdown. Let's say we did break the 72. I mean, you're looking at a 12 to 20%, pretty easy cakewalk move, as long as it bottoms there and then it comes back up. It could be as high as 45% if we did it properly, but right now, we very well could be trying to push out to retest this area of the rising wedge breakdown. I understand what I hustle harder than you saying. Tom, if I may offer a suggestion as a friend, I've been here for years with you. Josh 562, a lot of people are late and want to build their bag. Try to think of it. If you had zero, where would you start? That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do, and that's why I'm so blunt on where I would buy it. Right now, so dangerous. It's so dangerous. Where would I build it in? I would build it in for XRP. If I'm just being honest, I was honest. And I've been honest. There was one opportunity to build into XRP, and it was on that October 10th drop. But you have to have that liquidity in the nuts to buy it when you have these big liquidity spills. The next spot would be, and it's the truth, but it's a hard truth. The next spot would be, if you want my honest opinion, you've got to look at it two ways. One, you're at that crescendo point right now, and it's tricky right now, though. That's the problem. It's very tricky. You're either at that point where you're getting the best opportunity for some time, or you have to wait to the bottom if this is a B wave, and then you'd be able to buy it around either $1.80 or extend all the way down to $1.59. There is a scenario, though, as some will say, if you put the wick off or the Elliot waves and you put it on top of an XRP chart, how it literally will point to the 50-cent area again. So, like, it's not that I don't want people to expand their bag. It's that I don't want people to expand their bag and be the person down 70%. the same reason I said, please don't buy it at $3. Please don't buy it at $3.50. Please don't buy it at $2.50 at the time. It's one thing to say we're going to hold it and we're going to ride it until eternity. But remember, by your same suggestion, you guys are saying that people can't afford to buy the 10,000 tokens because we're retail at this point, which is true. But you got to take that same philosophy. So why at the same time would I handcuff them to a shitty purchase when they could be sitting down 40 to 60%, which they would right now if I went by a philosophy of, here, let me help you build into a bag you don't have regardless of the price. And I'm only being honest with you. Let's see. Where was that comment? Because there was two of them. I want to make sure I don't mess it up. But I'm only being honest with you. I hustle. I'm being honest with you because you actually have been around for a long time, but, you know, it's not that there's not times to buy. That's not the truth. There are times to buy. It's just, if you're going to buy right now, if you're trying to buy right now, here and now, and say, I want to buy XRP, I was late to the party, and I want this token because I love it. Okay, that's great. But you either have to take the shot that we're going to hold this $2.06 to $2.10 area, and you'd have to buy at $2.10 and but you have to understand that if this is a bear flag and this is the B wave starting, this bear flag brings us down, and it's no fault of yours if you're buying right now. You could even be looking at $1.99.7 like that, and then you're going to say, well, shit, now I'm down 5-6%. And then if it continues and you come down, and let's just say it did $1.89 and back test $1.99, now before you even blink, you could be down 25%. You know, and yes, and what some people... Frankie Fresh, you'd buy under $1.80. $1.80 is good, but if we don't hold that falling wedge, and that can extend from $1.80 to $1.69, depending on when we hit this son of a gun. And this is the truth. If this is breaking into an ABC, then you're looking at somewhere around this area, because then you're back testing the falling wedge, and maybe that is the area of the point of contention. But it's so dangerous. Now you're on a slippery slope. Now you got the falling wedge at $1.77, $1.80, even extending down. You break that, then you've got to look at a further correct. It ends up. But now we talk about, do we really need to go down to the exhaustion wick here? But I would argue, because it's in a falling wedge, if we could hold this, yes, it's a bullish reversal it's a bullish setup it's a reversal setup, but sometimes the reversal fails, and then when it comes back down, it can't hold the back test. What we really want to do is see this as just hold, we back test, we keep moving, we try to push up, and this is really a fourth wave rally up. But I'm seeing evidence that this could be an ABC correction down, and if that's the case, that could be the start of a very significant push down, and we would just have to deal with it. But, you know, that's as honest as I can be. But if we push up because we're still in until we're not, and this is where it gets tricky if you go more of a macro look within the micro. The micro says we're in a bullish megaphone still until we're not. And even with the drop down, this could still be in a megaphone, and it could just tap this again at support for a volatile spike back up, even if it did break down in worst case scenario. But what we're looking for is not just to push to 261. We're looking for some validation on this megaphone here to make it still valid. We keep coming back down, the odds are that we're going to invalidate this kind of a pattern if we break through. And yes, there is the caveat that that's just the micro within a larger macro view. If you go into the larger macro, I acknowledge we are within a much wider setup, but I don't really like to look at this chart for the wider one, because we have one where the actual wick came down perfectly on October 10th, which leads me to believe that $1.57 area is actually going to start playing out as some kind of descending wedge probably. But I can't talk about that yet. Until that stationary support, I can. But if that stationary support, not a descending wedge, oh, wait a minute. It wouldn't be that, because it would have a stationary support. Yeah, see, that's why I don't want to talk about it. Let's not go there yet. Let's not go there yet. Because then you would see the cadence of how it just brings it down no matter what we do. The cadence would be like, uh-oh. We've always got this overwhelming line right here, and it would be for a reason. You'd always have, and that's why this push-up could get rejected. But let's not talk about this cadence yet, all right? Because you could come down here and start, we'll give it some room here. But the reason why, so does anybody know what kind of pattern this would be? And this is in my heart what I think could be happening if we're on an ABC down. Does anybody know what that is? Anybody at all? What is there, 60? It's 99 people. Oh, well, call me gloriously impressed and very humbled. The fact that we gained 30% of the people and you stayed during that discussion. See, there are truthers out there. There are truthers out there. Look at all of you. You guys should all be proud of yourselves. Should all be proud of yourselves. What kind of pattern is that, though? Make me happy. I don't know about a falling wedge, only because we have a stable support structure on the bottom. Remember, a wedge is described by, you don't have like a falling, and then you have an uptrend connecting the wedge. This would almost look like more of a triangle on the stationary support. So here, let me throw something by you. Descending triangle versus wedge. Remember? And this will be what classes are for, folks. Descending triangle, downtrending resistance, pretty stationary support, right? Downtrending resistance, pretty stationary support, right? So what does a descending triangle mean? So this is why, if you guys are interested in the classes, they're going to be starting probably this week, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. And I'm trying to figure out if it's going to be, we're going to start from the beginning, and then we're going to go into the current market formations as well. Believe that. But if you want to be a part of it, there is a category, and it's $49.99 a month. Instead of going to a different platform and doing it on my own, I decided to keep it all on YouTube, so there'll be a running database. So no matter if you start it now or you wait 6 months, you'll be able to have a building database of classes at least twice a week. Some weeks there'll be one, like when I have to take my son out to Grand Rapids next week, I might only be able to do one. But this is some reason why you would want to go in there, because we break down these, we're going to be breaking down this stuff different. And this is a descending triangle. And descending triangles are often bearish consolidations if you're coming from the downward direction. Now, it doesn't mean it has to break bearish, but a descending triangle is often we're getting exhausted. We're becoming exhausted, and the bottom line is we had to break past this resistance, and we had this big breakout this week, and we did not. So now some will say that's an inverted hammer candle, but you got to be very careful here. We're closing at a very big negative drop here. So the one way to save ourselves, though, is what we've talked about. But a descending triangle is not good. You have a series of lower highs, and you have a flat support. An ascending triangle, you'd have a flat resistance and an ascending support. That's why a lot of times an ascending triangle is a bullish continuation, because your price has gone into a new discovery phase, but it created an ascending formation. So there's a lot of them that we can show in precious metals that would validate this narrative, and is why we're kind of getting to a point where we're like, are we about to have another breakout as crypto goes down another leg? Because we're building a very strong case. Well, we can't look at that. We need to look at some of the metals where we've just broken out of, again, flat resistance, uptrending support. That is an ascending triangle for Fortuna Silver Mines. And as long as it doesn't break it down, I will probably have an expansive buy this week, because it's breaking out of an ascending triangle. So I'd already bought it from $4, but now your next buy-in, if you wanted to add to it for an expansive run, would be a breakout of the ascending triangle. And I'm considering heavily on expanding into this. I've been trying to tell every single person about this for many, many weeks. Not just about crypto, but about what's going on in precious metals. So if we didn't have that breakdown, look, ascending triangle breakout. These are such superconductors for massive breakouts. That means anything back down, and we've already somewhat back tested here twice. As long as we were over 337, you're golden, and we're in the ascending triangle. I mean, not the broadening wedge basically here as well. We came back and back tested, which would be your support hit. So that's why a lot of these are very, very bullish right now. We could have historic breakouts here. B2 gold after years, and you can put that, I put it like this just so you could see the breakout, but there's a case to be made going back for many, 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 many years. Okay, so you're at this part right now for even B2 gold where after all these years, all ends are about to meet, folks. When you see the breakout that's going to happen when these ends meet, oh my God. We're going to, I don't even know how to describe what comes next when it happens. But at the same time, as I've been saying, wherever there's a reaction, there's an opposite reaction in another market. Where somebody makes a lot of money, somebody else has to lose a lot of galulis. Learn the rotational flips. Right now, again, would I be buying XRP in that descending triangle? There is no way in hell that I would be buying XRP when it's proving its way through a descending triangle on a bearish consolidation. There's no reason. Why would you throw your money away? Now, if you want to buy it, wait until it breaks out of that descending consolidation. So you have to wait until $2.40 if it happened. But we already had one push down. Or you can take the chance that we're going to hold this area and that you might be holding a very big bag in a few weeks. Like, we can't make up the patterns that are setting up for crypto. All we can do is openly and honestly acknowledge them. But we are in a descending triangle, and I showed you. I let everybody answer. But we are in a descending triangle. I'm not afraid of it. Most people are afraid to admit what's going on. I could care less about admitting what's going on, because guess what? The opportunity that I'm going to achieve with so much liquidity on the sidelines, and yeah, I had a nice little ride up. But right now, it's got to prove to me why I should continue a ride up with some of these tokens. And it's not just XRP, believe me, it's not. Everything looks like hell right now in crypto. But guess what? If a lot of money's, look at this. This looks like we're just getting ready. They're getting ready to drop it. We could be getting ready for a 20, 30% drop real quick. Let's see. I see a lot of comments. I like the comments. But yeah, so we can't pretend that that's not the pattern that's set up in front of us for XRP. We can't act like that's not there. But what we can do is watch to see if there's signs that we can break out of it. Right now, we're just, every single thing we're doing right now is pushing us farther down into this little trap. And it's going to be a problem if this continues, because we already know our next hit. If it comes down and this breaks down, your buying opportunity is $1.55 if it holds. But the problem is with the descending triangle, are you really buying that? Like, I'm being honest. Are you really going to buy that? Because guess what? I can give you the target. You might see a number below. You might have seen numbers below that people think that I'm just talking out my ass, I think. But I'm not. A descending triangle would have huge ramifications. And everybody who says we can't come sub 50 or sub $1, I almost think we're coming right back here, and the next buy point is somewhere on this uptrend. So until then, might have to make a hard decision. Might have to just wholesale everything and then just ride it down. And I'm not a financial advisor, so you're going to have to make your own decision. But you can see my philosophy when it comes outside of XRP as of right now. There's no reason to just keep stacking and holding. Because I'm telling you, you're going to get such a tremendous opportunity out of this if this breaks down. But you have to, I'm not saying you can't keep holding. I'm saying you don't want to be buying if this breaks down. But you also don't want to jump the gun before you get the validation if you don't want to hold it for the way down. That's the point. So yeah, is it a tricky spot? You better believe it. Is it more bearish than bullish? Likely, but is there still liquidity higher above before we have a further fall? There is that possibility. Bitcoin showing a lot at 94K. Showing a lot down lower too. So, big caveats here this morning. I'm proud of 105 of you for sticking around. Proud of you. Only you can answer that, Frankie Fresh. Only you can. And I know I hustle harder than you. You did a great job this bull cycle. You've done it before too, but you sold 30,000 XRP when I called the top after an expensive combo in the chat, in the charts. In the chats, Tom knows his ish. I bought 1K XRP. Yep. Exactly. And this isn't my first time doing this. I did this in 21. I told everybody when to buy before when I first started that run up. And then I was literally the only one on YouTube I got bashed that actually said that we had topped already in Bitcoin and XRP. And I liquidated all my crypto when XRP was at $1.66. And then I said I will not buy until sub 50. And then I actually said sub 40. I predicted that it would go down to 52 cents on that drop, the initial one before having a bull trap rally, and I didn't know if it'd go back to $1.18. I don't remember how high it went, but I couldn't exactly tell you where the number would have been. But it actually at 52 cents to the cent. That was when I got a lot of followers. Then a lot of people got mad because I wrote other things when XRP 1x back up. But the truth was we had like VeChain and Zill, and they had a couple 100% moves. So I went with ones that I thought would have a bigger volatile move up. But we still were able to make a swing. But I said I didn't want to hold XRP until I was holding XRP, and I still feel like that. So then in 23, we had to, again, look at it and be like, okay. In 2023, when everybody, again, was afraid, we went back into quantitative easing, and we went into rate cuts. And we said, this is the time to buy. It's at the 34-cent floor, because it had a big drop down again from 44 back to 34. And we're like, this is the time. And again, it was the same thing as 21 again, except I had like 20,000 people instead of, 1,300 by the time that rally was over. And then I lost half of them. Half my people left when I sold. Then they came back when they seen where we bought again. But anyhow, then in 25 to start the year, I said, listen, guys, like we've topped. Like we might come back up here, but this whole cycle is about to go into a bear. We're going back into a bear market. And the only difference I did was I had bought back in June or whatever it was in 24 when it dropped to 38 cents. On the air, I bought $5,000 worth and said, here's our second chance. If you never want to sell the 34-cent one unless it's to make it or break its zone, this is where you build that side bag, and then you can sell it when it gets all-time highs again. Because and I kept saying, we're going to have anywhere between a 50 and 75% pullback because you have all these people stacked from 2017, all the people that are buying in between, and then you got all the people that bought that first push back up as it hooked back down, and then it went back up. So everybody was like, I'm out. Out. So then we've gotten a historic, not historic, but we've had a monumental back. I mean, there's been such an opportunity, and that was the message. Liquidate higher so you can buy a historic liquidation. And that's what ends up happening. We literally had the biggest historic liquidation in the history of crypto on October 10th. Now, if we go by the average price where it shows like $1.18 to $1.34, you're talking about that's 62% from there, but on some exchanges it was better than 80. I would say it was about 65 to 70% on average, which is a great back test. But now we have to face the facts that most time the exhaustion wick ends up filling out. Yeah, I have to get ready for church too. I'm only going to be able to be here another 5 minutes or so. Jessica, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 4 years with the XRP Phoenix badge. I can't handle it. I'm tired of the ride. Me too. But I have to face it. We have to face it head on so that we know the opportunity. So right now the optics would be, okay, once this validation happens across the market, if we're going to break down, you've got an opportunity to have a lot of liquidity on the sidelines, but you got to have some fortitude to know which direction you want to go. Like, I never look back. If I were to sell out of everything and then it goes up, I'll look for the confirmation, and maybe I just won't have as much of one thing as I had. Like maybe it wasn't as important to have so many of one or so many of the other. But what I'm looking for is that opportunity where, okay, it all of a sudden, this whole 4 or 5%, I don't care. But if this rest of this movement goes, this is the spot where if it does finish, it's not just XRP. This is unanimous across the board. If we're getting a big push up in metals and mining, which it looks like we might be. Now, for the start of the week, however, we're probably going to back test for gold. And it'll probably happen today on the futures if we're going to do it. And it'll probably be worked out by the morning back over 45. But we would probably back test 4,475-ish area. There's a big liquidity zone in the order books where that would be a feasible area for it to back test. Maybe on the open, we get a quick back test. But as long as we hold, I mean, you're talking about maybe some movements in miners. Like Fortuna Silver Mines, if this plays out, we're at $10. You're talking about $70 per share. And I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I guaranteeing you a 7x move from here. But what I'm telling you is Fortuna Silver Mines actually is one of the ones that benefit the most from the Venezuela situation. And it's breaking out of an ascending triangle as we speak. Back testing it. Multi-week back test. So, and I've talked about if it gets over and holds $10 for a long time, that this is kind of like how Hecla Mining went bonkers once it got over 15. Or once it got over 10. But it's the same situation with Fortuna. It's so undervalued right now. So that's just and with the miners, you have to have the understanding that you're trying to play that long-term breakout. And look at that. Even in the 4-hourly for XDC, that's a bearish candle in the 4-hourly. That looks like a gravestone style doji. I always look at those inverted crosses as not good news when they're pulled down that far. And this pullback right now in miners is definitely a win. And not all of them pulled back, but I gave 3 of them at the end of last week. B2 Gold, Dolly Varden, and Fortuna Silver Mines. Underperforming the last several weeks to months to even years. Dolly Varden has a price target where it's $8 or so, but that is going to go to 17 to 22 if it does play out. And I think it will with these acquisitions. And it's given opportunity. I'm just going to go deeper into those markets, and we're going to let the chips fall where they may when it gives me the signals. And Big Dog says it's over 100%. And the problem here is once it happens, if it does break down, you're going to get such a volatile breakdown that there's going to be no reaction time. Like we're almost to that point to where we're just going to drop 7% before you can even blink if it ends up playing out. So please be cautious. I got some church. I got to go attend a church. Just please be cautious today. You know, the biggest thing we're supposed to do in these moments is protect our capital. When the chart's speaking of capital protection, we protect our capital. But we also remain knowledgeable enough to understand that, you know, you got to be on the ball if we did get a reversal. Right now, though, it's not. It's speaking of a head and shoulders pattern, and this is the classic distribution period, or the actual bearish consolidation that until you get that final moment, you finally go, and then this will be down. You know, this will just be down. So everything I see, it looks bearish, and we'll just have to appreciate it the way it is, unless it wants to break out of it at some point. But right now, I don't really have good vibes. I do have to get going to church, but I don't really have good vibes now. Has Bitcoin got anything special going on? The problem is there's no real volume, but we'll see. Like I said, we'll watch how this plays out today and see if we can reverse this narrative. If not, you know, it's going to be a slippery slope down. But, you know, Golden Cross possibilities here. We could get this caveat. Like I said, 94K is a very logical area for Bitcoin if this can happen. So, what's the ticker? Fortuna Silver Mines. I tried to make this easier by taking off my other miners so everybody could see the ones that I thought were in bargain areas. Now, Barrick Gold is all the way up at $47. So, you know, obviously take that for what it's worth. It's not at 18 and all that. But again, you know, it's just another one that's breaking out of a very long-term consolidation. And if you look at it from even deeper, but this isn't the one that I was telling you guys, by the way. This is one that I think is going to come much higher because it's coming up to its higher levels and it's not near its all-time highs and it's going there. But I think right now B2 gold breaking out of what looks like a long-term ascending resistance, especially if you build this all the way through. But the ones that I talked about as far as silver miners, Fortuna Silver Mines, which I see a very clear ascending triangle attempted breakout here. And that's going to lead to a crazy, crazy appreciation here in the coming years. And then Dolly Varden, same situation. It's got that resistance that looks like an ascending resistance. Now, you could do something like this and say maybe it's not an ascending. But if you're honest, every time it got rejected in these areas, it would break back down. So you could probably put it like that even if you wanted to. But, it's all perception. These are just massive, massive, massive patterns that have been building for a long time. That's all. That's all I want you guys to understand. Like, these have been building for years. Dolly Varden's been building for about 12 years. And it finally might be able to come back up to an area that it was comfortable in for a long time in the beginning. So, and we're trying to get back up to that 12 to 15 and even better area. This kind of movement suggests we should get back. But anyhow, it's all speculation and conjecture, but we'll keep watching this as we go. Be blessed, everybody. The odds that we are heading to a dump in the current setup on the pattern positioning, it's greater than 65% we're heading towards a dump. Does that mean it's going to? Absolutely not. But that's the understanding of the way it's set up. It's probably 65% chance, especially the fact that we look like we're on a B wave. Can always be invalidated. Can always be invalidated. And you can always find an opportunity to buy in later if the case may be if you haven't got in. And there's something to be said for securing your money. So, don't overthink it. Let it happen. Figure out what I would suggest in this upcoming market. Figure out your top 3 tokens. Even my 5 token strategy might be too much for most. But just understand that we're in some turbulence here. And if it drops, it's not going to just drop in 2 seconds. It's not going to drop over a week. We've had that consolidation now for some time. And if this does drop now, it's going to be rather quickly and rather abruptly if it does. So that's just what I want everybody to understand. Capital on the sideline could be your best opportunity here because we have a market where it's not stable. Now, could we have a quick ass reversal? Of course we could, and that's what we're hoping for, especially for the ones who are not, sidelined. We don't want our fellow friends to all lose all their money. But like I said, my strategy very well might go to 3 tokens, after this drop. It might go to 4 tokens. But the triple X tokens are automatically going to be there. But it's just the going back forward. I told you guys, every time this plays down, it gives us a better opportunity to not only confine our positioning, but to better understand what we want as a person. Like what we want, what we're willing to hold, and all this other stuff. So I try not to be afraid of these markets. I try to utilize these markets the best I can, with knowing that these drops that are coming, if they do happen, they're going to be ferocious. They're going to be very quick. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity that can come out of this if you're just willing to watch the market play out properly and not be trapped by emotion. The emotional tug is probably the hardest thing, if I'm being honest. The emotional trap is probably the hardest part of all of this. And the pure reason why it's hard is we all have too many tokens usually. So it's so hard to follow one to the next, especially if we're not a veteran trader. Even if we are veteran traders, it's so hard to follow 500. Can we agree it's so hard to follow that many tokens? So it becomes a little clustered when we do that. So, but yeah, we'll see if we can hold here. Yeah, it's not a great sign that we're starting to tug down here already, but I'm telling you, if it breaks down, it's going to be quick. You're going to have a quick B wave down. That's what ends up happening. It gives you the illusion. And once the illusion's broke, it comes down to a B wave, and before you know it, we're down to $1.89, $1.80, $1.99. That's the way it goes. Be blessed, everybody. And we'll continue talking about the expiration. I have a lot of liquidity on the sideline, is all I'll tell you. I'm not telling you my positioning, but I can tell you it's back to observation mode, and I have lots of